I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. If you've been looking at our website, starborninstitute.org, you would already know that we're talking about a lot of light in the sky, because tonight's program is called At Odds. And I'll explain that in a moment, but it's really in relation to the wonderful full moon that we are having at 12 degrees of Taurus on Saturday. So over the weekend we will be having a very potent full moon, because the moon is exalted in Taurus and it's a fixed financial sign, traditionally ruling the second house of how you make your money and what you spend it on or invest it in. But when I'm talking about at odds, I'm at first referring to the two love planets, because one of them is the ruler of Taurus. It's Venus. Venus is in Libra, the other sign that it rules, and it is at 26 degrees of Libra, in exact harsh opposition to Uranus, the other love planet which rules platonic or spiritual love, and it is also at 26 degrees, and Uranus rules the future. It rules things ahead of their time. It rules invention, and it rules rebellion as well. And above all, it rules sudden, surprising change and volatility. So it does rule anything that goes through the air, such as electronics, aviation, the space, anything to do with space. It rules music. It rules the whole technology field, and it certainly rules the ability for the media to communicate. And so this planet, which is a little bit unstable, ahead of its time, and subject to sudden change, is exactly opposing a more traditional planet, Venus, which is in Libra, and Libra rules peace and partnership, compromise, and above all, the law and all legal contracts. Both of these planets at 26 degrees means that they're in harsh opposition, and 26 is a number that reduces to 8. 2 plus 6 equals 8. 8 is the number of Scorpio. It's the number of success. It's the number of people who are at the top or who want to be very successful. And so it can rule people at a very high level. They could be the head of government agencies. They could be the head of large corporations. They can certainly be very future-oriented. And they like to make money, because Scorpio is a fixed financial sign. So if the love planets are at odds, it simply means that there may be a real difference between the new and the more normal or traditional way of doing things. And that is because there may be a few people right now who are very successful. This pertains, when I'm talking about at odds, I'm talking about people or organizations that are at the top and who are very successful. So this doesn't have anything to do with our grocery budgets or, the expenses that everyday people have. This has a lot to do with financial implications at a very high level. So it could be among very wealthy people or wealthy governments or wealthy organizations, and it can be that the new is at odds with regulatory agencies, and these could be in government or they could be international regulatory agencies. And why could they be at odds, and why could this have financial implications? They could be at odds because they could have been so in love with what they were doing that they may have invested a lot of money and time in what they're doing, particularly somebody like an inventor or somebody who's doing something brand new. And if they had investors' money, it simply means that perhaps the investors want to get a quick return on their investment. And so this can be a time when they may have overextended their credit, they may have skipped a few steps and not paid their taxes, or they may have created a monopoly, which is illegal. And so that is why the new can be at odds with the normal or more traditional way of doing things, where you sort of file every legal paper and do everything correctly and do pay your taxes. And so this can have financial implications because These two planets are at odds with each other very harshly at the time of the full moon this weekend. And the full moon is being harshly aspected as well. And so that full moon, which is exalted in Taurus, is being opposed by 3 strong planets in Scorpio, the other fixed financial sign. So the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury in Scorpio are all opposing that full moon in Taurus. Now the full moon is being trined beautifully by Pluto in Capricorn, which means it has some backup. But the 3 planets in Scorpio are being trined by Neptune in Pisces, so they have some backup too. And that simply means, since fixed signs don't budge, that if the love planets are at odds, and that can affect relationships, partnerships, and can present legal problems, it can have financial implications because the planets in the financial signs under this full moon are also at odds. And so that can be an indication that there are some very successful people that could be looking at some big financial problems right now, or organizations could be too. That's why I don't think it's you and me, but it can be people at the top that are at odds with the law in one way, or they have skipped a few steps in their financial responsibilities, and that could be coming to a head and be creating problems. So that isn't good. At the same time, there are 4 planets in a harsh T-cross in cardinal signs. And so Mars and Venus in Libra are opposing that Uranus in Aries, but they are also being squared by Pluto in Capricorn. And Pluto and Mars squaring each other is not good because they are the rulers of Scorpio. And Scorpio rules not how you make your money, but it rules money coming in from any other source. So it rules credit, debt, loans, taxes, inheritance, insurance, grants, or money coming from any other source. And that can be very challenging to other people right now. In other words, if you had been, say, buying something on margin and you suddenly have to pay up, and your credit is already stretched, you could be in deep trouble because you may not be able to get more credit. So there is a challenge among the financial signs, and there's really a challenge among the love planets. And so I think that we are in for some sudden surprising change that could happen at any time. And that is because Mars is opposing Uranus, not directly the way Venus is today, but Mars is moving along, and it is going to move up to an exact opposition to Uranus, just the way Venus is today. And when that happens and these 2 planets are opposing each other harshly, oh boy, watch out. There could be really a sudden surprising change that would be most unpleasant. It could be in the form of a cyber attack because Uranus rules technology, or it could be some sort of cyber war, or even war in space. Whatever it is, it's going to be unpleasant. And that's why if you are at odds in a personal relationship or in a business relationship, and you are sort of skating on thin ice financially, or your credit is overstretched, or you either have not paid your taxes, or there can be some sudden big expense in your life, this is a time when you would want to try to be a little bit more stable, a little bit more normal if you can. And so what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Well, Aries, I think that this is a time when you can be at odds with somebody. But if you're saying, oh no, I'm feeling just fine, nothing's wrong, then it can be that somebody else is at odds with you instead. Because your own ruler, Mars, along with Venus in Libra, which is very strong because it's in the sign it rules, they are both opposing Uranus in your sign, and Venus is doing that exactly. So if you are not at odds with somebody as far as the law goes, or a partnership goes, then it can be that it's a partner of yours that is certainly at odds with you. And it can be that there can be some tension in a partnership, or there can be a legal problem coming up. And it might have to do not with you, but with a government agency or your employer. and that is because Pluto is squaring Uranus in your sign. And if you don't exactly like the way things are changing around you, you may decide to just rebel and go your own way. And for about another 2 months, you could be successful at that, because you could still be drawing on the help of old friends. Saturn in Sagittarius is still trining your sun, but it won't be after December 20th. And so whatever help that you've been able to fall back on in the past will be gone by then in one way or another. It doesn't mean that you really lose an old friend. It may be that they're simply not able to help you any longer. So I think that you are looking at the possibility of being at odds with somebody, or if not, they are at odds with you. Maybe they haven't even told you yet. But this is a time, Aries, when you should be your charming best, because you could be vulnerable right now, either to legal action or partnership tension or some sort of change, particularly at a fairly high level, that you are not in control of. And that's why if you could sort of spread your charm around right now, Aries, I think it would do you a lot of good. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Well, Taurus, the full moon, which is exalted in your sign on Saturday, is being trined by Pluto in Capricorn. So for sure, your long-term security doesn't look like it's being threatened in any way, and that might pertain to a retirement account of yours. In fact, maybe it has actually increased in value. But your everyday life could be at odds financially, and that is because if you've been doing anything that involves a cover-up or involves something where you haven't been totally honest with somebody, and or if you've stretched your credit a little bit, or you have a tax problem that you're facing, that could be what is at odds with you. Or it can be that if you have been depending on money coming in from any other source, it may not be available, or there may not be as much of it as you had been counting on, Taurus. So you have to be a little bit careful right now, because when planets are in harsh aspect in fixed signs, nothing happens, because fixed signs, as you know, you are one, do not budge. So I think that this is a time when you have to try to sort of stay the course right now, not be at odds with things that are happening currently or presently in your life, but instead try to concentrate on the long-term gains that you are capable of earning, or that you do have. And just realize that in the end, things really could work out quite well for you, but you can be sorely challenged right now. And particularly some financial matter could be at a real standstill right now. And I don't think that it's necessarily going to improve very soon. So you better prepare for some sort of financial stall right now, Taurus. It doesn't mean your long-term security is being threatened. It just means there's something that is at odds right now in your life. And you may not be able to do much to influence it, so I would be quiet right now if you can. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Well, Gemini, oddly enough, Mars and Venus in Libra are trining your sun, so they're no problem to you. In fact, they can be supporting you. And Uranus in Aries is sextiling your sun. The two love planets are at odds with each other, but neither one of them is at odds with you, Gemini. And so that simply means if there is some sudden change at the level that is very high, in other words, in a successful person's life, or in the success of an organization, a large corporation or a government agency, and that they are at odds with the law, oddly enough, that could benefit you, Gemini, because these planets are in such good the ones that are threatening each other are in such good aspect to your own sun sign. So I think that if anybody else is at odds for one reason or another, that may benefit you in an unusual way, and it would happen very quickly, very suddenly. Even the harsh opposition of Mars and Uranus, when it occurs a little later on in a few weeks, that too could benefit you, Gemini. So I don't think you have as much to worry about now as you have had earlier in the year. So I think you should just hold fast, because there are going to be nice people and who know the law that can help you. So if there's tension in a partnership or the possibility of legal problems, I don't really think they're going to amount to much right now. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Well, Cancer, you are probably not involved in being at odds with people, but you can be greatly affected by other people who are at odds, and it could have sort of a domino effect. If something goes wrong with them, it could affect you in a residual way, and that is because Mars and Venus in Libra are squaring your Sun, and Uranus in Aries is also squaring your Sun, and Venus and Uranus are in exact opposition under the full moon this weekend. So whatever is happening in somebody else's life, whether it's in a partnership or it has legal ramifications, it is going to affect you in some residual way. And since Pluto in Capricorn is opposing your Sun sign, it simply means that, remember, this is a sort of a good time for you to think about moving on. And that is because there's too much that is not in your control, that is being decided by other people, and whatever the outcome is, you didn't cause the problem, and you also can't cure it. And that's why it's sort of good to move on. You would have the money to do that, Cancer, because the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury in Scorpio are trining your Sun, and so is Pluto in Neptune. 4 planets in water signs are all trining your Sun sign. And the exalted moon in Taurus, full moon in Taurus on Saturday is sextiling your Sun sign. If you are involved with anything that has to do with real estate, it would probably go pretty well right now. But because the financial signs are sort of at odds with each other right now, Taurus and Scorpio, I would say that this is not a good time to put your money down, but it is a good time to maybe look for bargains or to just think about something that has to do with a real estate matter. And it can be that you're thinking about it now and you can act on it a little bit later. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, this is a time when you have to be very, very careful. And that is with money. And the reason why is that yours is a fixed sign. So the exalted full moon on a Saturday in Taurus will be squaring your Sun sign, and the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury in Scorpio are already squaring your Sun sign. They will continue to do that. And so this is not a time for you to overspend in any way. Why is that? Because it's you that could be at odds with some financial matter. In other words, you could have your credit a little bit overstretched, or there could be some higher expenses coming that you'll have to cover, and maybe you're not really too prepared to do that yet. Or there is even the threat of you possibly being challenged and about the loss of some income. In other words, if your job got cut back in any way, or once again, if you just were counting on some money coming in and it might not arrive, or there may not be enough of it. So you're very vulnerable financially right now, Leo. And of course, I'm just talking about the fact that these planets in the fixed signs are in very harsh aspect to your Sun sign. But there's also the possibility with the eclipses that are coming. There's 2 eclipses coming in your sign in 2018, and there are 2 more in Aquarius opposing your sign in 2018. This is not a good time for you to be spending a dime, Leo. You should be saving every single bit, every penny that you can get your hands on, because you are really going to need it next year. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, not everyone is at odds. You're not, and that is because the full moon in Taurus on Saturday trines your Sun sign, and Pluto in Capricorn already trines your Sun sign. And since Taurus is a fixed financial sign, it can be an indication that there is some good news about money that can either be coming your way, or what I think it means, since Taurus does rule investments, is that whatever your investments are, they could have risen in value, and you might be rather pleased with how much they have gone up. So that would be rather good news for you. And because Pluto in Capricorn is going to be trining your Sun for years, it simply means that even if people at the top in government agencies or large corporations are at odds with each other, and that can have financial implications for them, I think still it would mean that no matter what happens to them, your long-term security is assured, and you may be taking on extra responsibility after the first of the year simply because something happens to them and there could be some openings and you might be getting a promotion. Just be quiet about your good fortune right now, Virgo, because there can be some sudden shocking surprises ahead, but I don't think that will happen to you. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Well, Libra, you have Venus in your sign, which is wonderful because it's the ruler of your sign, but Mars is there as well, and it is opposing the sign. It rules Aries, and Uranus is in Aries, and Venus today in your sign is exactly opposing Uranus. Uranus is a very unstable planet, and Venus in Libra is a very stable planet. So while you may want to have everything just right, in other words, you want people to be happy, you want to be in love, because after all, Venus is the love planet, and you want your partnerships to work out. So you could be looking at life with rose-colored glasses on, and everything could be looking great, Libra. But Mars is in your sign as well, and so that could indicate some tension in partnerships, or some problem that could be a legal problem right now. And because Venus and Uranus are at odds with each other, that simply means that people that may be at a higher level than you can be facing financial problems. And it can be simply due because they skipped a few steps. Maybe they didn't pay their taxes. Maybe they didn't exactly obey the law. Maybe they created a monopoly. Maybe their credit is stretched. But whatever is going to happen, it could affect you, Libra, because Uranus is opposing your sign, and Pluto in Capricorn is squaring it. So I would say that this is a very good time, Libra, for you to hold fast, and only do that if you are thinking that you are about ready to buy something or to go into debt in order to purchase something. I would wait on that, Libra. The Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury are in Scorpio right ahead of your sun sign. You could feel you can afford something, but right now, with the financial signs at odds and the love planet at odds, I would say you just need to remain stable and don't take the next step right now, Libra. That isn't due to anything that you're doing. It's due to the fact that there's too much instability in other areas, and some of them could be financial. So I would say hold off. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, the full moon in Taurus on Saturday does oppose your sun sign, so it's opposing the sun exactly in your sign, and Jupiter, and then Mercury is there as well. These three planets in your sign are sort of overpowering that exalted full moon. So there can be problems in partnerships, and that can be because the love planets are at odds, and because they are, partnerships can be thrown off, or credit can be stretched, or there can be financial tension and implications if people at the top who are very successful suddenly get some sort of financial or legal headache and have to do something about it. And so this is a time when I think that there could be a financial problem that you could be facing, and it might be that something is too high priced right now, or it could be that your expenses have gone up. And so this is not a good time for you to go into debt. It actually is not a good time for anybody to go into debt, not while there's all this at odds stuff going on, particularly financially and in relationships and in legal partnerships. So I think, Scorpio, that even though your sign itself has really good planets in it, that full moon in Taurus is opposing it, and so you have to be really careful and keep your emotions disciplined and steady right now. And don't worry about the money, but also don't go into debt. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Well, Sagittarius, You could be thinking that, oh gee, even if everybody else is at odds, it won't affect me, because there aren't very many planets in fire signs. But unfortunately, one of the planets in a fire sign is Uranus in Aries, which is under duress, and it is trining your sun, Sagittarius. So because the love planets are at such odds right now, and they are at the 26th degree this weekend, and that reduces to 8 the number of success, you, Sagittarius, may be on the verge of success regarding something new, and I'm just telling you, it might not be as solid as you think, and you should wait at least a month before you get real sold on a new start. It doesn't mean you can't go in that direction. You've been waiting a long time to get something off the ground. But all I'm saying is don't move too fast right now, Sagittarius. First of all, Saturn is still in your sign, but it won't be for very much longer. You're really heading into a better year next year. And so I wouldn't get ahead of myself right now, Sagittarius, because it could have financial implications. And it's not so much what you're doing, it's what somebody else who is involved in a new start, they could be vulnerable. And that could then hurt you. And that is why if they get into trouble, I'm urging you not to get into trouble. So try to slow down a little bit right now if you can. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, that full moon on Saturday in Taurus trines your sun. And that is good for you because that simply means there can be some good news or there's some good money that is related to a real estate matter or a move or some sort of investment. And so you are a person that is pretty sure of what you're doing because Pluto is a strong planet of truth and power, and it is being trined by this exalted full moon. But the full moon's in trouble, and also you are too a little bit. Not because of anything you're doing, Capricorn, but because Venus and Mars in Libra are squaring your sun, and so is Uranus in Aries, and they are at loggerheads. And so it can be that you are a little bit in danger of stepping right in the middle of other situations or other people or companies or agencies that are at odds with each other, and you could get caught in the crunch, Capricorn. So this, even if there is some good news about a move or about a real estate thing, I would still go very slowly right now. Mars is squaring Pluto in your own sign. That means that the money's not going to be there quite as fast as anybody thinks. And expenses could be high. So yes, you may know really what you're doing and the news could be good, but it could still be something could still be a little more expensive than what you're really counting on, and that's why I urge you to just take it step by step if you can. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, this is a time when, just like Leo, you cannot afford to make any financial mistakes, and you cannot afford to go into debt or overspend in any way. And that is because on Saturday, the full moon in Taurus will be squaring your sun, and the sun, Jupiter, and Mercury in Scorpio are squaring your sun right now. And Mars and Venus are trining your sun. That's wonderful, except that they are in a little bit of trouble right now. That Venus is at odds with Uranus, your own ruler, Aquarius. And so at any time, but particularly any time in the next month, as Mars moves up to an exact opposition of Uranus, the way Venus is over the weekend, there could be a sudden surprising upset that could have financial implications that could be costly. And that is why you really shouldn't spend a dime right now, Aquarius. You may certainly need it in the future, particularly since there are 2 eclipses in your sign next year. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces, I don't think you have much to worry about right now. And that is because there are no longer any planets in Virgo opposing your sun, so you don't have to worry about people who can be nitpicking right now or little details which you don't like to concentrate on anyway. And also your health can be a little bit better. However, Uranus in Aries is right ahead of your sun sign, and that planet is being harshly opposed by Venus exactly, and also by Mars in Libra, and Pluto is squaring it. And so, Pisces, you can be around people who can sort of explode or be very volatile or rebellious or unpredictable right now, and that actually wouldn't be too healthy for you. Because you know, Pisces, you're coming into a really good time, and it has already begun. And the reason why is that the Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury in Scorpio are trining Neptune in your sign. And that means there's more money around somewhere for you, Pisces. And that is what you should be concentrating on. It doesn't mean that you should be going into further debt, but it does mean that there can be additional financial resources coming your way, or it can be that you are in a position to help somebody else with their financial problems. But either way, that can work out very well in not only just a financial way, but emotionally. There can be a lot of healing going on right now. So just try not to get involved with people that are sort of edgy right now, Pisces. You don't need to be involved in their problems, and I don't think they're going to end up too happy. And so this is a time to sort of avoid people that are on the edge. That wouldn't be good for you to be around. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show anytime you want by subscribing to it on our website, starborninstitute.org. Bye.